morning, everybody. It's your boy D Max. So let's talk. All right. So you see the title. We're talking about modern day zealots today. And when we're talking about modern day zealots, we're talking about people who understand the prophecy of God, who understand the promise of God, who understands what the word says about victory and what it says about redemption and all of those things like that. But they choose to take things into their own hands because they don't have the patience to wait on God, nor do they have the faith to wait on God. And we see the instance of the Zealots back in the day during the time of Jesus. And this is when Rome was in rule over Jerusalem. And the Zealots were a group of Hebrews who banded together and who made a vow to fight against the tyranny that they were receiving from Rome. And so these guys, they met in secret and they did all of these things. And like I said before, they still believed in the Messiah. They believed in the coming of the Messiah, but what they had in mind isn't what Jesus showed whenever he did show up. And so when Jesus showed up and he began to start his ministry and he began to speak about love and forgiveness and peace and all of these things, the zealots of those times did not like that. And if I'm not mistaken, the Bible also lets us know that Judas was a zealot, and it speculates that this was part of the reason why Judas betrayed Jesus, because Jesus didn't come in the form that he thought the Messiah was going to come in. And he thought that the Messiah was going to come flying on a winged Pegasus with a sword in his hand and ready to lead the children of Israel into battle. And they were just going to go and destroy all of Israel's enemies and bring them back to their past glory. And that is not what took place. And so they were very disgruntled. They were very resentful and bitter. And so, they, instead of having faith in the Christ, they questioned his deity, and also it caused Judas to betray him ultimately. And so we want to fast forward today and look at the zealots that we have. And I can state honestly that at a certain point, well, at different points in my walk with Christ, I've been a zealot, because there's been many times when I've taken things into my own hand and when I've operated in the spirit of humanism. Now, what is humanism, you might ask? I'm glad you asked. Humanism is when you intellectualize everything and you put all of your faith and your belief in your individual self. This is basically making you your own God, your own higher power, creator, and so forth and so on. And you rely solely on you and your abilities intellectually to guide you through life. And so, if we would be totally honest with ourselves, a lot of us operate in humanism, even us who call ourselves believers in Christ. And so this is what I wanted to elaborate on today, because not only in the church is this a thing, this is also a thing in society. We have people in our society who wants what they want right now. This is why we had January 6th to take place. This is why we've had many protests to take place. This is why we've had many riots to break out and take place, because people in this country want what they want when they want it. They are not trusting the process, and they are not believing God for anything. They're taking matters into their own hands, and we're seeing the results of what happens when we take matters into our own hands and leave it up to the human mind to come up with solutions for the problems for the masses. And so now we're sitting in a position to where we have all of these zealots out here who are totally against the government and what's going on within the government, and they're taking action. They've got their secret little groups. You have groups like Proud Boys, you have groups like um, NFAC, or there's so many different militias are what they're called, but in actuality, these are just zealots. These are people who are fed up with the government. They have no faith in the government. They have no faith in whatever creator or belief system that they claim to be under, which a lot of them claim Christianity, but they do not exhibit any Christian characteristics whatsoever. And so these are our zealots that we have in the modern day. They're running around, they're taking everything into their own hands, and they're hiding up under the banner of something else. You know, my thing is this: like, if you don't have any faith in anything and you feel like you're the only help that you have, whenever you start to reap the consequences for the decisions and choices that you make of your own intellect, whenever you start making those decisions and you start to reap the consequences of those decisions that you make, please don't blame other people. Please don't put it off on others. Please recognize your responsibility and your role that you played solely in making those decisions and putting yourself in that position. Please have enough integrity and enough fortitude to do that, because I'm seeing a lot of people nowadays, they'll go out and they'll be stressed out. You have so much depression and so much mental illness taking place because people are basically banging their head against the wall. When you're given basic instructions on what to do, when you have a guideline on what to do, and I'm not just talking about the Bible, I'm just talking about genuine, common knowledge of good and evil. You know, this is something that you don't have to go to church to understand. And we have people out here who make choices to do the wrong things. Like I stated before, we're all just people who choose to do bad things and choose to do good things. There's no good people or no bad people in my sight until you prove otherwise. You're just a person that make bad choices, you know. And so I'll just say this, man. You know, there's a lot of zealots. There's a lot of modern day zealots who take it into their own hands and put themselves in situations to where now they want to see themselves as a victim because they weren't expecting the backlash that they got. But little do you know, when you put something out there, whatever you put out there, when I'm talking about speaking wise, it's going to go out and accomplish what it set out to do, and it's going to return to you, and it's not going to return void. So whatever energy you put it out there with, it's going to come back to you with that energy. So be prepared for it. And a lot of these people nowadays are not prepared for it. They want to fight against the government, but they're not willing to sacrifice anything for it. They don't want to sacrifice their freedom. They don't want to sacrifice their life or anything like that. They just want people to bend to their will, and you know, they're willing to hurt, they're willing to shoot, they're willing to do a lot of things, as we saw, to get that, but they don't want to die for it. Now, you have many believers in this world who are true believers, and I'm not just speaking in Christianity once again. I'm talking about so many different religions, because there are zealots in every religion. Everybody has a belief system that they go by, and they have a belief. A lot of us have belief in a creator, a higher power, And so within every religious group, you are going to have people who are doubters and who do not have the patience nor the faith that their higher power will do for them the things that they need done. And so they'll take it into their own hands, and they'll go out and they'll begin to try to create a change under their own power, under their own wisdom, under their own understanding. And all it brings is frustration and more tension to the situation. And so I tell everybody, man, anytime that I've made a good decision, it's whenever I consulted my higher power beforehand. It's when I meditated on it. It's when I focused on it. It's when I um, really sat down and wrote out a plan. These are the times where I was very successful. These are the times where I've benefited most in my life. And that was all because I didn't want to be caught out there, you know, um, I didn't want to be caught out there lacking. It wasn't about me. There was more people connected to me, and I had more responsibility on me. And so I had to do accordingly. But um, for the most part, like I said, the best decisions that I made in my life, I always consulted Yahweh first, and he led me in certain directions, and I was sensitive to his voice, and it opened doorways for me. It gave me confidence, built me up in my faith, and so many different things took place only because I was obedient to the voice, and I didn't go out there and just try to do it on my own. Now there's many, many times when I did try to do it on my own. I'm not even gonna lie. There's plenty of times when I thought I could handle it, whenever I thought I had it under control. And, the end result thereof was death. And I'm not saying physical death, but there was a lot of spiritual death. There was a lot of financial death. There was a lot of emotional death, mental death. There was so much death involved in those poor decisions that I made whenever I didn't consult my higher power. And so we have all of these people out here running around who's not consulting anybody but themselves and each other, and just pretty much boosting each other up with the talking points and the misinformation that they like to feed each other to boost up their bravado and stuff like that. And these people really don't have an understanding of what's been prophesied. They don't have an understanding of where we're headed in this world. And so if you do have an understanding of where we're headed in this world, what age we're in at this time, based on your belief system, then you're going to have more of a sense of stability, and you're not going to be so worried about what the government is doing right now. You're not going to be so worried about all of these other things that are taking place in the country that has everybody in an uproar. Excuse me. You're not going to be concerned about those things because you already have a path that's been etched out for you, and it has a light upon your path, and that light is going to guide you down that narrow road. And so it's based on the choices that we make. I spoke before about, how a lot of the times we're trying to get to our destination and our location the quickest time possible with the least amount of disruptions. And a lot of times that cause accidents. And we have to learn to slow down at times. We have to learn how to move with caution, and that's what having the Spirit of God dwelling in you does. It gives you that caution. It gives you that when to slow down, when to speed up, when to turn left, when to turn right, when to get on the highway, when to get off the exit. It has all of that direction and instruction for you. But there's a lot of people out here who's just winging it, just shooting from the hip, and who's just going off of their own ability. And I'm telling you, the ability of a human is not all of that. You know, there's some exceptional people who have some very great minds and who have really been innovative and brought about a lot of progress in our society. But we have a lot of average people who do not have that capability and who are out here hurting and being more of a problem than they are being a help to the situation. And so we need to address these zealots. All of you who run around here feeling like, you know, the government has to do something now, or the black people have to do something now, or anybody has to do something now. It's all a process. You're not going to see the results immediately just because you want it. You know, there's, like I said, there's a process that it has to go through. And in the country that we live in and what we're asking for, it's going to take a long time, because equality and true freedom is not something that's easily obtained. It's never been obtained without bloodshed. And so for us to expect it to come just that easy, without any bloodshed, without any more hardship, without any uh, faith applied to it, then I don't know what to tell people. I don't know what to tell you. If you don't have that belief and if you don't have that understanding, then we'll just agree to disagree, and you can continue on with your stress and with all of your paranoia and with all of your frustration. But I won't be carrying around those burdens on my shoulders because I have an understanding. And when I say in all you're getting, get an understanding, that simply means that, you know, we claim that we know a lot of things. We have a lot of information juggling around in our heads, but being able to apply that information to your life, that is not only wisdom, that is also understanding, because you have to have an understanding of the process, an understanding of how a thing works, and an understanding of the end result in order to be able to have the faith and the patience to move properly through some things. And so that requires some studying on your part. That requires being knowledgeable about what you're facing. A lot of times we face an enemy that we don't even understand, and that's how we get beat down and drugged through the mud a lot of the times, because we're out here fighting an enemy that we don't even understand. Even boxers go and look at a tape and look at their opponent and see what type of style they fight in and see what type of weaknesses and strengths they have. That's the smart thing to do. But we go out here blind, fighting against enemies constantly, because remember that this fight that we're fighting is not a carnal fight. This is not a fight of the flesh. This is not a physical battle. This is a spiritual battle where we're fighting against spirits in high places. We're fighting against the principalities in high places. We're fighting against the princes of the airways. We're fighting against the demons, the bad spirits, all of these things that we're fighting against. That's what the zealots did not understand. And that's why the zealots was so upset, because they was wanting Jesus to come and fight a physical battle. They wanted Yeshua, yeah, I call him Yeshua too. And they want him to come and fight this physical war, but he came to fight that spiritual battle and destroy those spiritual strongholds and the spiritual slavery that the people were under. And they couldn't understand that, because they were trying to make it make sense from a carnal mindset, and it just did not work. And so a lot of them were left confused, just like people today. There's so many people who are out here confused because they're trying to fight a battle that they don't even understand, nor are they equipped to fight, because they don't know that it's a spiritual battle. all of these zealots out here who are hurting people, who are killing people, who are getting all of these weapons together, and who are doing all of these protests and all of this being dissatisfied with the government and disgruntled people. Out of all of this, not one of them, not one of them has really sat down and sought instruction from a higher power on what to do. And if they did, then we have to question who that higher power is and the character of that higher power. Um, man, it's hard to sit back and watch this because, like I said, I've been that same person that I'm speaking about many times over before in my life. There's been many times when I've tried to take it into my own hands, even after I became a believer. And you know, just going through things and saying, getting so built up and kind of cocky, you like, hey God, I got this, and sometimes he'll sit back and he'll let you go through it just to see where you're still weak at. And then you go back and you build yourself up in those areas, and then you move forward, you try it again, you overcome that hurdle, and then you move forward to the next thing. Our life is full of events and different situations and different tests and trials that's gonna be all the way until the day that we die. And so you have to understand that, and you have to figure some things out. You can't just go through life just winging it. You can't go through life just barely getting by. At some point, you're gonna feel the need to excel. At some point, you're gonna feel the need to be better than what you are at some point. And that goes into something else that I spoke about, but I won't get into that now because that'll take us way off topic. But getting back to the zealots, everyone out there within the sound of my voice, if you feel like um, America owes the people something, and when I say America, I'm speaking about the government. If you feel like America owes us something, then you're gonna be waiting for a long time on America to pay up. There's a lot of people who talk about reparations and things like that. I'm gonna tell you like this: I'm not waiting on anything in the form of reparations from anybody. Just moving forward with life, securing my own finances, my own family, making sure that my children have the wisdom to obtain wealth so that they can go forth and they can survive out in this world far when me and my wife are gone, and they'll be able to do just fine on their own. This is what I believe in, and I feel no need to have to fight against the government. I don't have a fight against the government because everything I need, I can provide. Everything I need is, within my ability to obtain because I'm not doing anything that far outside of my ability, resources wise. And so, I don't blame anybody for anything. If I don't have enough to get something that I want, then I'll save up and get it. But I'm not going to, um, I'm not going to complain like I'm not making enough money or taxes are too high or anything like. I could care less about all of that stuff at all. I really could care less because what it really comes down to is this: I'm blessed just to be able to have the the ability to be able to handle a lot of those things when they come up in my life. And so, you know, the government is going to do what they do. You know, the best thing that I can do for the government is pray for them. Pray for each one of those government officials because, like I said, all of the stuff that they do and the decisions that they make, unfortunately, they roll downhill and they eventually end up at our front doorstep. And so, if we're praying and interceding on their behalf, and God is hearing our prayers and God is dispatching angels and working on our behalf, then the hearts of these leaders is going to change at some point, and the decision making of these leaders is going to change at some point. Their hearts are going to be convicted at some point, which is going to lead them to make the right decisions. Not all the time, but in some situations it will, and that's what matters. And so you can't have a zealot mindset in order for this to take place, because like I said, this is a process that is going to take time, and it's not something where you're just going to see a quick turnaround. And so if you don't have the patience to wait for the process to work, then I don't know what to tell you. Just don't mess it up for everybody else. Because this is what the Zealots were doing. The Zealots would go and attack the Romans, and what would Rome do? They would come and take it out on the people of the city. They would take it out on all of the Jews in Jerusalem, because they didn't know exactly who did it, but they knew that people in the city were hiding those people, and they knew that they walked amongst the people. And so what did they do? Well, we're going to do mass punishment of all the people to punish the ones who are out here doing these attacks on us, since we can't just find the specific people. And so this is the same thing that's happening today, because whenever these people go out and do attacks, like now we have tighter security, now we have tighter this, now we have more strict rules on other things, and we get angry about it because it's more of an inconvenience to us, but we don't realize that these are the consequences of these zealots out here who are just uh being vigilantes basically, and they're taking matters into their own hands instead of waiting for the process to work. And so they're messing it up for us. Now we have to adhere to these other strict rulings. We have to adhere to this, because you're always going to have somebody in the bunch who don't want to follow suit, who want to do their own thing, and who's just rebellious. And so there are safeguards in place for people like that. But it always comes back on everybody as a whole. And I always hated mass punishment when I was in the military, and I still hate it now. I always thought it was unfair. But at the same time, it's really the only way that you can get results, when you have disgruntled people who will throw a rock and hide their hand. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to speak on. Just keep your eyes and your ears open for these modern day zealots out here. They're the people who are always disgruntled and bitter, and nothing's their fault. Everything is the government, and everything is everybody else's fault but theirs. And they carry this bitterness and resentment, and it shows and it manifests through their actions, it manifests through their speech, their demeanor, and everything. So just watch out for people like this. We have to have this discernment to be able to identify certain people so that we can avoid them. We have to guard our spirit in a lot of situations. So watch out for these zealots as y'all go into work this morning. And if there's any zealots on your job, man, just, I ain't gonna say avoid them, but you know, just understand what type of person you're dealing with, and don't allow yourself to get caught in the crossfire whenever they decide to act out and operate in their humanism. So this is your boy D Mac, man. I hope y'all got something out of what I said this evening. And you know what I say, man. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but the word can always heal you. I'm out.